either Virasana or Vajrasana. So they're similar. Virasana is when you're sitting on your block, or you could stack up 2 blocks. The block is between your ankles, your knees are together, and you're sitting on your block. Vajrasana is no block. You're sitting in between you're sitting on your heels. So your heels are pretty much in that attachment between your hamstrings and your sitting bones. So just once you find where you want to start today, and then once you get there, see if you can sit up with a certain amount of alertness in your spine. And you can rest your hands on the top of your knees and allow your eyes to close. And so as you allow your eyes to close, the other day we were talking about prana, and I wanted to continue on that theme. And as you guys know, pranayama is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. And pranayama simply means breath work. So I'm going to read something to you this is from Indu Aurora. This is the mentor that I went to India with, and she just has a way of succinctly getting to the point. So I'll just start. Prana, derived from pra, meaning primary, innate, primordial, foundational, or first, is literally the foundational energy of the body. Prana brings life, and without it, life ceases. It is far beyond oxygen and respiration. It is the essence of vitality that moves through the channels of the body, building and nurturing our tissues. The free movement of prana throughout the body is what makes us healthy, vital, and energetic. And so we are going to be having a bit of a heat wave this weekend, and so I wanted to teach you guys a cooling pranayama practice. This is called Shitali pranayama. And so sitting up with your tall spine, allow your eyes to close so that you can just focus on your breath. We'll just spend a few moments just anchoring the breath, bringing our attention to the breath, allowing the mind to dial right in to the breath. And so in Shitali pranayama, what we do is we curl up the tongue and we sip the breath in through that curled shape of the tongue. And then you can exhale out through your nose. And so let's practice that for a few rounds of breath. And so when we take a cooling breath, it's not just to cool our physical body, it's to cool our mental energy as well. So when we find that our mind is busy, super active, all over the place, scattered, we can use this breath technique, Shitali pranayama, to cool ourselves down and to bring ourselves back into a more productive and neutral energy. They say that when you're practicing Shitali pranayama, you might feel like you yawn, you might want to yawn, and when you yawn, that's a sign that it's worked. Well, we might not practice it that long today, but if you go on later on this weekend and you're sweating and you want to practice this breath technique, you might try practicing it until you yawn. So let's do this for about a minute more, just exploring. And if you're not comfortable with this breath technique, or if you can't curl your tongue, because some people can't, just breathe in and out through your nose and try to create soma vritti, meaning that there's an evenness to your inhale and your exhale breath. open your eyes, feel your sitting bones rooting down. Imagine that you're trying to lift your heart from the inside out so your shoulder blades drop back, your collarbones become a little broader, and there's an invisible cable pulling you up from the top of your skull. And then take your right arm up to the sky. And as you take your right arm up to the sky, turn your palm to face behind you. So you feel your shoulder is here externally rotating. And then go ahead and place your left hand on top, bend your right elbow, and slowly start to stretch, giving a little bit of gentle pressure to press your fingertips down your back. Really, you're thinking about continuing to externally rotate your arm in the socket. And oftentimes the rib cage wants to splay out here. So hollow your front ribs in and feel your back ribs lifting up. And just breathe here in the stretch. I see that cat. Hi, Stinky. And the dog. Hi, Stella. Good. And then let's release here. Just roll your shoulder out a couple of times. One way and then the other way as well. And then elevate your left arm up to the sky and turn your palm to face behind you. You can take a hold of the outside of your tricep. Try to spin it a little bit more forward. And then as you drop your hand towards your shoulder blades, bring your right hand to your elbow and just gently press down a little bit. And then check in with the rib cage. Can you feel those front ribs hollowing and the back ribs lifting? And we're in Soma Vritti, right? So we have an evenness to our inhale and our exhale breath. Good. And then slowly release and go ahead and circle your left shoulder around a couple of times. And then the other way as well. Good. And then interlace your hands in front of you. Notice which thumb you have on top. Invert your palms and push your hands forward, feeling your shoulder blades broaden. And then as you inhale, slowly float the arms up to the sky. Good. Keep trying to roll the triceps forward. Keep trying to hollow the front ribs out. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, side bend towards the left, pressing down into your right sitting bone. And see if you can lift up through the left side of the body a little bit more. That's it, good. Relaxing your shoulders, making sure that you don't have any hardness around the muscles of your eyes. Good, and then inhale back to the top. And as you exhale, release your arms down. Switch the interlace, and then invert your palms, send them forward, feel your shoulder blades getting a little stretch between them. And on your inhale breath, float your arms back up. Notice that you don't splay those front ribs out, you keep those back ribs lifting. And as you exhale, you side bend in the opposite direction. So pressing down into your left sitting bone, but thinking about as if you were stretching on that diagonal, reaching for the corner of the room. Notice your breath. Is it still even? Is it still smooth? Beautiful. And then bring it back up to the top and release your hands down. Good. Bring your fingertips to your shoulders now. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, start to twist your body towards the left. As you inhale, feel your spine growing a little longer. And as you exhale, revolve just a little bit more. As you inhale, bring it back to center and then start to circle your elbows. So really feel like your wings are moving, your shoulder blades are moving, that's it. And then circle the opposite direction as well. And then bring it back to the center, hollow out the belly, get a little taller. And as you exhale, twist in the opposite direction. Try to keep the width of your elbows Lift up from your sitting bones all the way to the crown of your head. And find your breath. Good, and then bring it back to the center, and then again, circle your elbows around and around. It's like your shoulder blades are massaging all those little muscles. Yeah, and then go the other way as well. Get all the pops and cracks and snaps out, or maybe not, maybe they're still there. Good. And then wherever you are, move your blocks to the top of your mat and come into all fours. So as you come into all fours, let's just start to make big circles with the spine. So again, getting the shoulders involved, getting the rib cage involved, bringing awareness to the hips, bringing awareness really to all parts of the body, everything that's touching the mat, and everywhere that you're moving from. And then circle the opposite way. Good, and then come to just like a neutral spine in all fours, and turn your fingers to face the outsides of your yoga mat, and just start to shift your body side to side. So you're stretching into your wrists a little bit. Noticing that lateral movement. And then turn your fingers to face your knees. Micro bend your elbows. And rock your body a little bit forward and backward. Okay. Great. And then flip your palms around. Just observe that there's lots of space between all of your fingers. Extend your right leg straight back behind you, and then float your right leg to the height of your sitting bone. And you feel your right inner thigh spinning up towards the ceiling. Draw your low belly in towards your spine, so it's kind of like warrior three, hint, hint, we might be there later. So really activate your back leg like crazy. Imagine that I was gonna come push on your back leg, and it's not gonna move anywhere. Good, and then slowly start to bring your right leg out towards the right, towards that awkward airplane shape. Hover it in the air, flex through your foot. Good, and then drop your foot down to the floor, and as you bend into your right knee, push your yoga mat towards the left. So we're warming up the hips a little bit. Inhale, shift back to the midline, straighten through your right leg. As you exhale, bend into your right knee and push the yoga mat away. Inhale, bring it back to the center. And as you exhale, last time, bend into your right knee and push the yoga mat as if you could push it all the way to the left side. And then bring it back. Good. So coming right back from where we were, you're gonna float that right leg out to the right. You'll feel that hip kick on. And then spiral it all the way around to the back. Notice your low belly. Notice your breath. Imagine you could pull your palms backwards so that the top of your sternum grew a little bit longer. And then complete your pose by reaching your left arm forward. And just going for a super amount of length from your fingertips to your back leg. Remember how strong that back leg is. Soma Vritti. A calm, cool, and collected mind as you observe everything that's happening in your reality right now. Good. Slowly bring your hand down and slowly bring your right leg back down. And then extend your left leg back behind you. Then float it up. Imagine a cable attached to the inner thigh side of your left leg. And notice the tendency of the pelvis to dip down. Imagine you could zip up from your pubic bone to your navel. So you're drawing your belly in and connecting that strength through your left leg. So as if I was gonna come push it down, it's so strong. Your toes are flexed down towards the floor. You're connected to that whole idea of extension through the back leg. So the butt muscle, the hamstring are turned on. Good, and then you're gonna slowly start to revolve your left leg out towards the left. Notice if you start to collapse into your right hip, try to stay on your midline, pause. Beautiful, and then drop your left foot down. to the left. And then as you bend into your left knee, try to push your yoga mat towards the right. As you inhale, bring it back to the center. And follow your breath for the next 2 rounds, moving the body in opposition. So as you shift the pelvis one way, the arms are trying to push the other way. Next time your shoulders are right over your wrist, pause. Firm that outer right hip in. Float your left leg up and out to the left. And then revolve that leg all the way around again. And wake up your glute, your hamstring, your low belly. Make that leg super strong. And then reach your right arm forward. Make sure you're not collapsing into your left shoulder. So there's a long line of energy through the inseam of your left arm. Good, and then slowly release it down. And then separate your knees out wide, bring your toes to touch, and rock your hips backwards into your heels for child's pose. Extended child's pose, so see just how much you can walk your fingers forward as you lengthen your hips back into your heels, relaxing your third eye down, and breathing into the back of your body. Good. And then think about just how straight and strong your arms are. Make sure your forearms are lifting up away from the floor. Your triceps are rolling down towards the earth. So you're already thinking, okay, this feels a lot like downward facing dog in my arms. You're pressing down through the inner part of your palm, and you're finding the root of every single finger. Good, and then shift forward again onto hands and knees. Tuck your toes under, and as you lengthen your hips up and back into downward facing dog, try to recreate those arms. So pressing into the inner part of your palm, finding the root of every single finger, and imagining a suction cup in the center of your palm. Imagine you were trying to open 2 jars in opposite directions. So energetically, it's like you're trying to spin the palms in opposite directions from one another, and you feel how that firms those outer arms in. At the same time the outer arms are firming in, the shoulder blades are broadening on the back, and there's spaciousness in your collarbones. And so as the hips reach back, find the low belly again, and just feel that gentle engagement. The low belly is helping to press the hips back. And then try to lift all 10 toes up off of the mat. Try to press the top of your thigh bones towards the back of the room. And then on your next inhale breath, shift forward to the top of a push-up, stacking your shoulders above your wrists. Feel your inner thighs spinning up towards the ceiling. Feel your tailbone lengthening, and feel your pubic bone moving towards your navel. Take one more inhale here. And as you exhale, lift your hips up and back into that downward facing dog. And so finding your flow, your breath, starting to synchronize breath and movement together. Inhale, shift forward to plank. Pause. Exhale, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And pause. Inhale, shift forward to the top of a push-up. And pause. Exhale, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And pause. Good. Inhale, shift forward to the top of a push-up. And pause. Drop your left knee down. Place your right foot in line with the toes, and take your right arm up to the sky, modified side plank. Good. And if you want a little bit more, you can float that top leg up. And imagine just getting buoyant, getting lighter on that left wrist, on that left palm. took your leg up, release it down, take your hand back down, and you're kind of like in a half plank. Then extend your left leg back again. Drop your right knee down. Align your left foot to the toes of your right foot and take your left arm up to the sky. And then see if you can get a little lighter on your right palm. Maybe float that leg up. Remember the strength of that back leg. Good. And then slowly release your leg down. Revolve your arm down. You're kind of in that half plank again. And then step your right foot back to meet your left. So you're in a plank pose here. Now drop both knees down to the floor, but make a long line from your knees all the way to the crown of your head. Imagine you were trying to pull your yoga mat backwards. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, lower your body halfway down. Keep firming your abdominals. And as you inhale, push the floor away. Feel your shoulder blades moving towards your pinky fingers. Let's do that twice more. Exhale, lower halfway down. Your elbows point straight back behind you and gently graze the sides of your body. Inhale, push the floor away. One more time. Exhale, lower halfway down. Firming the belly. And inhaling, pressing back up. Good. And then drop your hips back again into child's pose. Just allow your body to cool down. I'm already starting to feel that heat wave. So we want to take care of our body. Allow ourselves to sweat if we need to sweat. Allow ourselves to cool down if it's feeling a little too hot. Okay, so from here we're going to start to drag the chin and the chest forward, keeping your hips up in the air. So you're just pulling yourself forward, knees, chest, chin. And landing in a baby cobra. So lifting your chest up and then lifting your palms up off of the floor, keeping your gaze down on the floor right in front of your mat. See if you can lift your heart from the inside out, then press your shoulder blades into the front of your body. Good. And as you exhale, release it down. Hands are right underneath the elbows. Pull the yoga mat backwards. Lift up into a baby cobra again. Keep your gaze forward. See if you can lift your heart from the inside out. And as you exhale, release it down. And then tuck your toes under. You can push up from your toes or from your knees. Find your way back into plank on your inhale. And on your exhale, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Take a few breaths here, recenter, recalibrate in downward facing dog. Feel your inner thighs spinning towards the back wall. Release the top of your skull down. Good, and then inhale your right leg straight back behind you and really try to keep it on the midline. Firming your left hip in, and as you exhale, draw your knee in towards your chest. Push the floor away, feel your shoulder blades broaden, and step your foot between your hands. Drop your back knee down, uncurl your toes, and as you inhale, bring your hands to your hips and steer the front of your pelvis up, the tailbone down. Take the arms out to the side, and then revolve the biceps up towards the ceiling, so you feel that external rotation through the shoulders, and inhale your arms all the way up. Good. So as you lift up through your arms, lift up through your rib cage as well. Bring your hands together in front of your heart and cross your left elbow to the outside of your right knee. Press your palms together. And just imagine you are lengthening your spine and revolving around that axis of your spine. And then release, bring your hands down to the floor or the blocks. Tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee up off of the mat. And just pause here in the low lunge. Let your pelvis get a little bit heavier so you feel a nice big stretch through your hip flexor. Maybe rock back and forth a little bit. Really exploring all of the different sensations that you feel. Think about what you feel in that back foot as you use that back foot to steer yourself forward and backward. start to just shift your hips from side to side a little bit. And notice how you're stretching slightly different muscle fibers. Once you've gone side to side a couple of times, really commit to that midline. Imagine you were squeezing your legs together on the tiniest little pencil line. And as you firm your hips, imagine a dowel running through the center of your hips. Take your right arm straight out to the right and start to revolve your chest open, coming into another twist. And so you're lifting up so much through that right arm that you get a little lighter on your left hand. There's a sense of buoyancy. Good, and then slowly spiral that arm back down. Root your palms down, keeping your hips nice and low. Slide your right leg back to meet your left. And you're in a plank pose, so it's really mindful. The inner thigh spinning up, the pubic bone moving towards the navel, the tailbone moving towards the pubic bone. Shift your shoulders forward on your inhale. Drop your knees if you need to on your exhale. Elbows are going to point straight back as you lower down into Chaturanga. Good, and as you inhale, baby cobra. See if you can lift your heart from the inside out. As you exhale, tuck your toes, lift your hips, up and back, downward facing dog. Just take a moment and notice how the sides feel really different right now. And then inhale your left leg, straight back behind you, being mindful to keep your inner leg on the midline of your mat. As you exhale, shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest, push the floor away, and step your foot between your hands. Drop the back knee down, uncurl your toes, and then bring your hands to your hips and steer the front of your pelvis up. So get really conscious of what's happening in your pelvis. Extend the arms out to the sides, revolve the biceps up towards the ceiling. And then as you inhale, lift the arms up. And as you're lifting the arms up, it's like you're energetically lifting the rib cage up out of the pelvis. Beautiful. Bring your hands together in front of your heart without losing any of that length in your spine. Keep that length as you shift forward, and then feel your rib cage revolving around that axis as you hook your right elbow to the outside of your left knee. And Somavritti. So we want to use our breath to open our body, not the poses necessarily. We don't want to go to the most extreme places in the poses. We want to go to where we can feel that there's a little bit of work, and we can feel our breath opening us up from the inside out. Good. And then release. Bring your hands down to the blocks or to the floor. Tuck your back toes under. Lift your back knee up off of the mat. And let your hips drop down, let your chest lift up a little bit, and start to rock yourself back and forth, building that proprioception in the sole of your left foot and in the ball of your right foot. Start to shift yourself from side to side. And explore just how much you feel your pelvis shifting to the right versus how much it shifts to the left. And then find that middle point. As you find that middle point, imagine you were trying to squeeze both inner thighs onto that midline. Take your left arm out to the left and slowly start to revolve your spine. Your arm is just going for a ride. It's really your rib cage that's turning on the axis of your spine. And lift up so much through that left arm that it feels like you're getting lighter on your right hand. And then let your breath open you from the inside out. Beautiful. And then slowly revolve that arm back down. Root your palms down. Keep your hips nice and low. And slide your left foot back to meet your right. So mindfully stepping into this plank pose. Imagine your inner heels lengthening towards the back wall, the top of your skull lengthening towards the wall in front of you. Using that proprioception to pitch forward onto your tippy toes, reach your chest forward. As you exhale, lower halfway down, Chaturanga. As you inhale, baby cobra or upward facing dog. And if you're taking upward facing dog, shoulders away from the ears, bring your chest forward. As you exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. And so we have this moment again to cool ourselves with our breath and with our intention, to feel how now the sides maybe have evened out a little bit. Good, and then separate your feet out as wide as your yoga mat. And slowly walk your hands back towards your feet. And then when you get there, clasp your opposing elbows and just let your torso get heavy. Let the top of your skull get heavy down towards the floor. Notice which elbow is on top. Release, bring your fingertips to the floor. Turn your toes out a little bit. Bend your knees and come down into a squat formalasana. Bringing your elbows to the inside of your thighs. Of course, you can roll up your yoga mat or stash a blanket underneath your heels if your heels are lifting up off of the floor. And then place your hands back down on the floor and lift the sides of the hips up. And parallel your feet and clasp your opposite forearm on top. So the one that feels really awkward and strange. The more you think about lifting the sides of the hips up, the more you think about almost pulling your elbows down towards the floor. So releasing the spine. Whenever we come into a forward fold, it's a cooling pose. It cools down our nervous system. It gets the heart above the head. Good, and then place your hands back down, turn your toes out 45 degrees again, and bend your knees one more time for Malasana. And just notice if it feels a little bit different. Good. Reach your left arm out to the left, take your right arm up to the sky, lift your chest to the ceiling. Breathe. Bring it back to the center, reach your right arm out to the right, take your left arm up to the sky. And imagine you were just trying to get as big of a wingspan between your arms as you can. Nice, and then slowly revolve it down. Place your hands down, lift the sides of the hips up, and then heel toe your feet so that they are hip distance apart. You can always make that measurement by placing your two fists together between the highest part of your arches, noticing that your second toes are parallel to the side edges of your yoga mat. Either fingertips on the floor or fingertips to shins as you inhale, reach your chest forward. Feel that little up tip of the top of your sternum. As you exhale, release it down and invite in that cooling energy. And then keep your spine heavy and start to roll yourself up, vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae. And when you reach the top, roll your shoulders up, around, and back, feeling the broadness of your collarbones. Taking a moment just to stand as if you're standing on the precipice of your practice. Clear, cool, collected mind. Bring your hands together in front of your heart and set any intention that you have for today's practice. Come back to noticing your breath. And then release your hands down and step to the top of your mat. As you step to the top of your mat, be mindful how you're standing. Your feet are your most important part of your foundation. So take a moment and feel the four corners of your feet pressing down. Lift all of your toes, spread them out, and then place them down with a little bit of space between them. So your Namaskar A, inhale, circle the arms, feel the rib cage lifting up off of the pelvis. As you exhale, hinge, fold forward. As you inhale, lift the chest. As you exhale, step your left foot to the back of the mat, pause in a low lunge. Step your right foot to the back of the mat, shift your shoulders forward, and on your exhale breath, lower halfway down Chaturanga. On your inhale breath, baby cobra or upward facing dog. And as you exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. And think about trying to, lengthen your yoga mat towards the front of the room. And then step your left foot forward, pause in the low lunge. Step your right foot forward. As you inhale, lift your chest. Feel that little up tip to the top of your sternum. As you exhale, fold back down. As you inhale, rise all the way up. Tailbone is heavy, inner thighs are spinning towards the back. And as you exhale, hands together in front of your heart. Inhale, circle the arms, reach up to the sky. Exhale, hinging from your hips, long spine to fold forward. As you inhale, lift your chest. And then step your right foot to the back of the yoga mat. Pause for a beat here. Feel that lunge. Root your palms down, step your left foot back. And then pitch yourself forward, looking over that cliff. Bend your elbows straight back behind you. Keep your low belly turned on, Chaturanga. Inhale, baby cobra or upward facing dog. Try to rip your yoga mat in half if you're an upward facing dog. As you exhale, take your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And allow yourself to have a moment of silence and stillness. Observation of the sensations that you feel. Just being present with reality as it's presenting itself to you in this moment. Step your right foot forward, pause. Let your hips drop down towards that low lunge. Step your left foot forward. As you inhale, lift your chest. And as you exhale, fold back in. Good. As you inhale, circle your arms, reach all the way up to the sky. And as you exhale, hands together in front of your heart. So big toes touching, heels slightly apart, or you can maintain hip distance, bend your knees. Circle your arms, Utkatasana chair pose. And it's called fierce pose, right? So we reach the arms, we feel the tailbone reaching on that diagonal, like it's reaching back for a chair behind us. Take one more inhale. As you exhale, fold forward, straighten your legs. As you inhale, lift your chest. And as you exhale, any way you want to, make your way back through a vinyasa. You can step. If you're jumping, make sure you land with your elbows bent. As you come into upward facing dog, imagine trying to spin your hands in opposite directions. And as you exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Good. Inhale your right leg straight back on that midline. As you exhale, slowly shift forward, curl your knee in towards your chest, push the floor away, and step your foot directly between your palms. Good, now bring your hands to your hips and steer the front of your pelvis up. Firm the sides of your hips in. Notice if one hip is higher than the other. So you have this moment here to kind of put things where you want them to be. Notice that your right knee is tracking right over the center of your foot. Take your arms straight out to the sides. Flip your palms up, revolve your biceps up, and inhale your arms all the way up to the sky. So coming into this crescent pose, place a generous bend in the back knee. And then you start to straighten that back leg any amount. Good. And then you're going to take your left hand, bring it to between the shoulder blades, take your right hand and give it a little bit of assistance, pressing it down, and just finding your balance here. And think about continuing to externally rotate your left arm in the socket. Good. And then bring your right hand to your right hip, reach your left arm forward, and as you draw your right hip back, reach forward through that left arm. Get as long as you can. And then place your left hand down to the inside of your right ankle. And again, spin your right arm up to the sky. But this time, keep opening your chest. Keep reaching your right arm back behind you. Good. Slowly revolve it down. And step your right foot back to meet your left. Vinyasa or not, you choose. It's pretty warm. So if you're feeling really warm, you can skip the vinyasas. Take a moment in downward facing dog. Inhale your left leg straight back behind you. Keep hugging that outer right hip in. As you exhale, slowly shift forward, knee to chest, push the floor away, and step your foot between your hands. Good. So you bring your hands to your hips, and you take that moment to steer the front of the pelvis up, to stack the rib cage on top of the pelvis, to feel the crown of the head in line with the center of the pelvis. Take your arms out to the sides. Spin your biceps up towards the ceiling. And as you inhale, float the arms all the way up. So it's like you're lifting your rib cage with your hands out of your pelvis. Put a generous bend in the back knee. Make sure that the left knee is tracking over the center of the foot. And then you just start to straighten that back leg any amount, thinking about the proprioception through the ball of your right foot. Good. And then turn your right palm to face behind you. Give yourself a pat on the back. Bring your left hand to encourage a little bit more of that stretch. Notice if you're splaying your front ribs out, so keep hollowing those ribs in. Keep getting taller from your pelvis through the crown of your head. Good, and then bring your left hand to your left hip and reach your right arm forward, forward, forward. So you draw the left hip back, you reach forward through the right arm, and then bring your hand down to the inside of your left foot or to a block. And then start to spin that left arm open, 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 like someone's passing you something behind you. Good. Slowly revolve it down. And step your left foot back to meet your right. Through your vinyasa, or not. Taking a moment to assess from the inside out, not from your mind, what should you do, but from your body, what does your body want? Good, and then at the end of your next breath, bend your knees, look forward. Step, walk, or jump to the top of your mat. As you inhale, lift the chest, feel that little uptick to the top of your sternum. And as you exhale, release it down. Bend your knees, circle your arms, Gomukasana, chair pose. Good, and as you exhale, stand all the way up and bring your hands together in front of your heart. Pause, feel your breath, Soma Vritti. Allow things to recalibrate. Good, release your fingertips down, and you're gonna step your feet out wide on your yoga mat. Yeah, so feet are parallel for now. Extend your arms out to the side and make sure that your ankles are landing right underneath your wrists. Good. And then you're gonna lift up the toes of your right foot. You're gonna spin the right foot to face forward. You're gonna take your left toes and turn them in roughly 10 to 15 degrees. So both legs are straight here. You're pressing into the mound of your right big toe. Start to lengthen your torso out over your right leg. Get really long through the right side of the body. And then take your block to the outside of your right ankle, coming into triangle pose here. So you're stacking the left arm on top of the right arm. You're elongating through the right side of the waist. So go ahead and kind of puff up your left ribs a little bit. And then imagine that you were just being pulled, being stretched, so that those left ribs come out of that rounded position. Beautiful. And then bend into your right knee so that your knee is tracking right over the second and third toe. And use your core to rise up into Warrior Two. And as you come into Warrior Two, that right sitting bone is revolving underneath you. The inner leg, the inner right leg is revolving towards the outer right leg. Good. And just find that drishti, find that gaze. Good. And then press your right leg to straight and revolve your feet back to parallel. Bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, lift the chest. And as you exhale, fold forward, let it cool you down, and then just have your strap, get it close by to you. Just allow the breath to continue to flow. Good, then bring your hands to your hips, and as you inhale, rise up with a long spine. Maybe take your strap with you. And you're gonna turn your toes out 45 degrees, and you're gonna bend your knees into horse pose, horse shape, yeah? So the knees are tracking right over the second and third toe. You're gonna take your, let's say, your right arm up to the sky, holding onto your strap, and then just give your right arm a little bit of assistance, tricep towards the middle, Drop your hand behind your back and take your left arm all the way around and find the strap. There we go. Sit down a little bit lower and see if you can make that left collarbone a little bit wider as you point your right elbow straight up towards the ceiling. And find that neutrality here, where you're not like, oh my God, when's it gonna be over? But you're just kind of finding that calm and collected, cool space inside of yourself. Imagine you were trying to lift the very top of your skull up for divine illumination. Good. Straighten your legs. Release your arms. Place the strap somewhere nearby. Parallel your feet again. And then very intentionally lift your left toes up. Revolve your left toes to face the front. Go ahead and take your block. Move it over there now before we get started. Spin your right foot in 10 to 15 degrees. And then reach your left arm forward and reach your right arm backward. Start to tilt your spine forward. And coming into Trikonasana pose, left hand to the block. Your right hip is slightly coming forward, but you're leaning your earlobes backwards, right? So there's that sense of opposition. Make sure your left leg isn't sleeping, so you're pressing down into the ball mound of your left foot to continue to elongate through that left leg. Good, and then bend your knee so that it tracks right over the second and third toe. Use your core and rise up to warrior two. And you'll spend a few breaths here. Feel the weight of your pelvis, right? And then feel the ability to use the muscles through your torso to stack the rib cage right on top of the bowl of your pelvis. Good, and then straighten your left leg. Turn your feet to parallel. Hands to the hips, inhale, lift the chest. And as you exhale, fold it forward. And your hands down to the floor. And invite in that cooling, calm, and collected. Hands to your hips, and as you inhale, long spine, lift all the way up. Bring your strap with you. Turn your toes out 45 degrees. The strap is going to be in your left hand this time. Take your left arm up. Spin your tricep towards the front. Bend your knees 45 degrees out to the side. And then drop your left hand behind your back to your shoulder blades. Take your right arm around and back. And just find your edge here, which doesn't mean you're struggling. Sometimes people think the edge means that you're like about to die. It means where you can be present, not waiting for some future moment when it's over. Beautiful, and then straighten your legs and release your strap, move it aside. And you can either step your feet together or jump your feet together and come back to the top of your mat. Good. So big toes touching, heels slightly apart. Bend your knees, circle your arms, Utkatasana chair pose. And then shift the weight onto your right foot. Bring your left knee in towards your chest and just find the balance. Fierce pose, so reach vigorously through those arms. Bring your hands to your heart here. And then start to just tilt your torso forward as you kick your left leg straight back behind you, warrior three. So remember we talked about that really strong back leg, like it is solid. If someone wanted to push that leg down, it would not happen. You can keep a little bend in your right knee, but make that left leg super, super solid. Good, and then you're going to start to bend your right knee. You're going to land your left foot about a third of the way back behind you and straighten both legs. So you can take a moment here, check and make sure that your heels are aligned or your feet are a little bit wider. And encourage your left hip to kind of spin forward, right? Your right hand to your right hip. Your left arm starts to reach forward as you flex forward from the hip. And then you might take your block and place it to the inside of your right foot. Take a pause here. So you're going to bend your right knee, and you're going to step your block forward off of your mat, and you're going to float your left leg back up to that really strong warrior 3 position as we come into Parivrtta, Ardha Chandrasana. So the left lung spinning down, the right lung spinning up, the back leg super, super, super solid. Awesome, you guys. Good. And then bring it back into a chair pose. Inhale the arms up. Good, and as you exhale, fold forward. Separate your feet hips distance. Catch a hold of your big toes with your peace fingers as you inhale, reach the chest forward. And as you exhale, cooling pose. Let your skull magnetize down towards the floor. As you think about stretching your hips up towards the sky, relax your shoulders away from your ears. Find your breath again. Cooling, calming breath. And then release your big toes, heel toe your feet back into wherever you practice chair pose. Bend your knees, circle your arms, Gomukasana. Scoop out that low belly, fierce shape through the arms. Good, shift the weight onto your left foot, bring your right knee in towards your chest. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Mindfully, as you kick that right leg straight back behind, you already have that left knee bent, so you don't have to straighten it. Be more concerned with that right leg getting really solid back behind you. And then you can press down through your left foot, but without the idea of, pushing your kneecap backwards, more with the idea of lengthening your left leg. Right toe spinning down towards the floor. You're reaching your sternum as far forward as you can. Good, start to bend your left knee, land your right foot about 1/3 of the way back behind you, and straighten both legs. And then take a moment and just look and see, do you have heel to heel? Do you want heel to heel, or do you want a little wider? Left hand to the left hip, encouraging that left hip to move backward, right arm reaches forward, and then start to lean forward. Feel your inner thighs continuing to spin towards the back. Place your block to the inside of your left ankle. And take that moment to, with your hand still on your hip, to spin that right lung down towards the floor, and then extend the left arm up. Notice if your hips have moved off of the midline. We've been talking about that midline a few different times today. We want to revolve the rib cage around the axis of the spine. And then bend into your left knee. Move your block forward, so it's going to land right underneath your face, and find the strength of your back right leg. The left leg can still be bent, right? Straighten that right leg as much as you can. Then press down through the sole of your left foot, finding that proprioception as you spin your right lung down, left lung up. It's like your back foot, your back leg is like shooting energy out straight back behind you. Good, and then find your way back into chair pose. And as you exhale, fold forward, straighten the legs, heel to your feet, hip distance apart again. And this time slide the palms of your hands underneath the soles of your feet. Allowing your toes to massage your wrists, bringing awareness to your wrists, to your hamstrings, to your hips. Good, and then slowly slide your hands out from underneath. Inhale, lift the chest. And as you exhale, make your way back through a vinyasa. Good. And then bend your knees and come down to a kneeling position. Take one of your blocks and place that block between your inner thighs. And then drop your hips down, tuck your toes under, drop your heels or your hips down to your heels. Place your right hand on your right heel. So cup your right heel in your right hand. And then as you inhale, lift the hips and stretch your left arm on a diagonal. Good, and then guide yourself back down. Continue to hold on to that right heel. Grab a hold of your left heel. Take your right arm up, and as you inhale, just explore that journey of extension, reaching on that diagonal. Good, and then guide yourself back down. So, you guys have a couple choices. If you like that, you can keep switching back and forth, getting that stretch. Or, if you want to move on to Chandrasana, come to a kneeling position. Make sure you're trying to shoot the block out through your inner thighs. I like to start with my hands on my lower back, so make sure you're not letting your pelvis go forward, right? You're thinking more of down. Draw your elbows towards one another, and then use your shoulder blades. Try to lift your heart from the inside out. And then maybe you find your heels. It's so not important that you put your hands on your heels. I'm not even going to do it. I'm just going to explore the shoulder blades opening the chest. Yeah, gorgeous. You guys, so good. All right, awesome. Use your core, use your legs. Come out of it if you're in Ustrasana. Move your block aside. Place your hands down and shift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Good, and then bend your knees, come down, and swivel your legs to the front of your mat. Now, you're gonna take your right leg, you're gonna cross it over your left, and then fold your left leg underneath you, and if you need to stick a blanket or a block underneath that hip, you can. And then try to stack your knees, your right knee on top of your left knee. You can pull on your shins to get a little bit more height there. And then wrap your left arm around, take your right fingertips behind you, lift up with that tall spine, and just feel the hip opening happening here, as well as the twist. Take a few rounds of breath, Soma Vritti, maintaining that equanimity. Good, and then look back to the front. Release your twist, extend your bottom leg out first, and then your top leg, your right leg, hands behind you, and just lift your chest up. Drop your head back. And come out of that. Cross your left leg over your right leg. Fold your right leg underneath you. And then see if you can wiggle the leg so that your left knee is stacked on top of your right knee. Wrap your right arm around the outside of your left knee. You already start to feel how that encourages a little bit more stretch through that left hip. Left fingertips behind you as we revolve your spine around the axis. Revolve your torso around the axis of your spine. Good, and then look back to the front. Release your twist. Extend the bottom leg first, then the top. Place your hands behind you again. You can do exactly what we did before. If you want a little bit more, you can lift your hips up off of the floor, but press your shoulder blades up into your chest. Draw your shoulder blades closer together, and then release whatever it is that you have. Good, so as you come into that seated position, move your inner thighs towards your outer thighs. So just kind of revolve your inner legs towards your outer legs. Feel your sitting bones reaching down. Take your arms up to the sky. Good, and then I only want you to go about 1/8 of the way. So just lean forward so you feel that flexion at your hips, right? You keep the same shape of your back. Good, really nice. Can you go a little longer, a little further? And then bring your hands down without changing the shape of your back. And then release your spine. If you want to bend your knees here, you might feel that you can get a little bit more of that extension, a little bit more of that extension through your upper spine, but flexion through your hips. Beautiful. And then bring yourself back up. And with your legs extended out in front of you, reach your arms forward, hook your thumbs together, whichever one you think is the one you wouldn't ordinarily do. And then start to articulate your spine. Slowly rolling vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae until you're all the way down. And then catch a hold of your knees. Let your head relax down. Move your hands to the outside of your shins or ankles and pull your knees down towards your armpits. Stamp your feet up towards the ceiling for happy baby. Make sure your tailbone is long on your yoga mat. And then bend your left knee, extend your right leg out towards the right. Roll a little bit towards the right hand side. Rebend your right knee, extend your left leg out, similar to what we did in the beginning, right? Rolling towards the left-hand side. Good, and then coming back to the center with both knees bent, and then extending both legs out to the sides at the same time. And just let your arms be the gravity that's pulling the legs down. And this is gentle, so we're not forcing anything. We're just kind of letting ourselves be on this tensometer system. Good, and then bring your legs all the way up to the ceiling. Lift your head and your shoulders, reach your arms forward. And then thinking of those inner thighs leading the way, slowly start to lower your legs down. And when you feel like it's challenging, just lift the shoulders up a little bit more. Spin the inner thighs down a little bit more. Take one more inhale. And as you exhale, release everything, finding Shavasana. And so your Shavasana can be any shape you want it to be. It could even be a seated meditation if you prefer. You can have your legs extended. You can take your blocks and bring your soles of your feet together and move the blocks to the outside of your thighs to give yourself a little bit of support. Or Supta Baddha Konasana, or you can just bring the knees together and take your feet out wide. You guys know all the options. Whatever you're doing, let yourself go. The theme of today is cool and collected and calm. So all of the heat that you built, creates a little bit more movement through those channels. But we want to bring ourselves back to homeostasis. So now that we've kind of warmed up and lubricated those channels, creating an environment where we can create more health and vitality and energy flow. We just allow it to be. We just allow ourselves to absorb all of that energy that's now being delivered to our tissues. So really just see this as a time to receive. It's a time to let go. We let go and as we receive, we become a little bit more whole, or a lot more whole. We become more authentically who we are. Just allow yourself to continue to find that silence and that stillness within. To evolve that tranquility and that calm. Take a nice big breath. Fill yourself with your breath. Pause at the top. And gently sigh that breath out. Part your lips, let it go. And then start to move your body around, and you kind of know what you need. You kind
kind of know what you like to do to move out of Shavasana. I like to say energize, invigorate, and enliven every single cell and molecule in your body. I think everyone's heard me say that about a gazillion times, but think about that. We have these clear channels to move energy through, so we want to deliver that nutrition, that nourishment to all of our tissues. When you're done, bend your knees, hug your knees in towards your chest. Just take a moment, pause, give yourself an embrace. When you're ready, roll yourself over onto your side and press yourself into a seated position. Bringing your hands together in front of your heart. And as you bring your hands together in front of your heart, just imagine you could feel the vibrational energy of your heart. And if the vibrational energy of your heart is love, empathy, compassion, and gratitude, what does that feel like to magnify those qualities, to pump those qualities to all of the tissues of your body?